Imagine a city of 1 million people, towering pyramids, advanced astronomy, a written language, and then, one day, everyone is gone. No war, no invasion, no bodies. Just empty stone cities slowly swallowed by the jungle. This actually happened, and to this day, nobody knows exactly why. This was the Maya civilization. For over 1,000 years, they ruled Central America. They built cities bigger than anything in Europe at the time. They mapped the stars with terrifying accuracy. They predicted eclipses centuries in advance. They were not primitive. In many ways, they were ahead of everyone. At their peak, the Maya had more than 40 cities. Some held over 100,000 people each. Grand temples reached for the sky. Markets overflowed with traders. Kings ruled in golden palaces. This was one of the most advanced civilizations the world had ever seen. They invented one of the most accurate calendars in human history. Their math included the concept of zero, something Europe wouldn't fully use for centuries. Their writing system could record history, poetry, and astronomy. They tracked Venus, the moon, and the sun across the sky. And then, starting around the year 800, something went horribly wrong. One by one, the great southern cities went silent. Construction stopped mid-project. Monuments were left unfinished. The kings disappeared from the records. Within just a few generations, the heart of the Maya world emptied out. Picture walking into one of these cities 100 years later. Massive pyramids still standing, plazas where thousands once gathered, but no people, no voices, no smoke from cooking fires. Just vines crawling over the temples and the sound of the jungle taking everything back. This is the great mystery. A civilization of millions did not vanish in a single night, like a legend. But across the span of a century, they abandoned their greatest cities and never came back. The question that has haunted historians for over 100 years is simple. Why? For a long time, people imagined dramatic answers, a sudden plague, a massive earthquake, an alien event. But the truth, as scientists slowly uncovered it, turned out to be far more unsettling because it might be a warning for us too. The first major clue came from the Earth itself. Scientists drilled deep into ancient lake beds and studied the layers of mud. Those layers act like a diary of the climate, and what they found was chilling. Right around the time the cities collapsed, the region was hit by something devastating. Drought. Not just a dry season, a series of intense, multi-year droughts, some of the worst in thousands of years. The rains that the Maya depended on simply stopped coming. For a civilization built on farming corn, this was a death sentence in slow motion. But here's what makes it tragic. The Maya may have made the drought worse themselves. To feed their growing cities, they cut down enormous areas of forest for farmland. Fewer trees meant less rainfall, hotter ground, and eroded soil. They were, without knowing it, damaging the very environment that kept them alive. Imagine being a farmer in one of these cities. Every year the harvest gets smaller, the river runs lower. The priests perform ceremonies to bring the rain, but the sky stays empty. Your children are hungry, and you start to wonder if the gods or the kings have failed you. And that leads to the second cause. The people lost faith. In Maya society, the king was not just a ruler. He was a link between the people and the gods. His job was to keep the world in balance, to make the rains come. So when the rains stopped, year after year, who got the blame? The king. The whole system of power rested on the belief that the rulers could control the heavens. When that belief broke, everything broke. People stopped building monuments to their kings. They stopped paying tribute. And in some cities, archaeologists have found signs that the royal palaces were attacked and burned. Now add a third pressure: war. As resources became scarce, cities that had once traded with each other started to fight over what was left. Land, water, food. Warfare among the Maya intensified dramatically in their final centuries. Instead of cooperating to survive, they turned on one another. So picture it all happening together. The rain fails, the crops die, the people grow desperate. They lose faith in their god kings. Neighboring cities go to war over the last good land. Disease spreads through weakened, starving populations. It was not one disaster, it was many, all at once. This is what scientists call a cascade. One problem triggers the next, which triggers the next. A drought leads to hunger. Hunger leads to anger. Anger leads to war and the collapse of trust. And once that trust between people and their leaders is gone, a society can unravel with terrifying speed. Family by family, the people made a quiet decision. They packed what they could carry. They walked away from the only home they had ever known. Not in one dramatic night, but in a slow, steady stream over many years. They left the temple standing and disappeared into smaller villages in the forest. And here's the part that surprises most people. The Maya did not actually go extinct. That is the biggest myth. Millions of their descendants are alive today, still speaking Maya languages across Mexico and Central America. What collapsed was not the people. It was the cities, the kings, and the entire way of life built around them. So the vanishing was not a disappearance of a race. It was the death of a system. A complex, top-heavy civilization that had grown too big and too fragile for the land it stood on. When the conditions that supported it broke down, the whole structure came crashing down with it. For centuries afterward, the great cities sat empty. The jungle moved in. Roots cracked the stone. Vines wrapped around the temples. Trees grew straight out of the pyramids. The most advanced cities in the Americas slowly turned into silent green hills hidden from the world. When European explorers stumbled onto the ruins centuries later, they could not believe it. They saw enormous stone pyramids buried in the jungle and refused to believe the local people had built them. The truth had been lost so completely that the builders were erased from their own story. Today, archaeologists are still uncovering Maya cities. Using laser scanning from aircraft, they recently discovered tens of thousands of hidden structures under the jungle canopy. Entire cities, roads, and farms that nobody knew existed. The Maya world was even bigger than we ever imagined. And every new discovery deepens the mystery and sharpens the warning. Because the more we learn, the clearer the pattern becomes. A powerful civilization, a changing climate, an environment pushed past its limits, a loss of faith in leadership, and then collapse. Does any of that sound familiar? The Maya were not foolish. They were brilliant. They had science, engineering, and centuries of success. And yet they still could not stop what was coming, partly because they could not see or did not want to see how fragile their world really was. That is the real lesson hidden in the jungle. Civilizations do not always fall to a single dramatic enemy. Sometimes they fall to a slow combination of pressures they ignored for too long. Drought, overuse of the land, inequality, lost trust. The collapse is quiet until suddenly it isn't. The Maya believed their world would last forever. Their kings built monuments meant to stand for eternity. They carved their triumphs into stone so they would never be forgotten. And yet, within a few generations, the people who carved those stones were gone, and the jungle swallowed their names. Stand in one of those ruined cities today, and you feel it. The silence where a million voices used to be. The staircases that lead to empty temples. The ball courts where crowds once roared. Everything built to last forever, now standing as a monument to how quickly forever can end. We often think collapse is something that happens to other people in other times. The Maya probably thought the same. They could not imagine their great cities standing empty. But the stones don't lie. It happened to them, the most advanced civilization of their world. So the empire didn't really vanish overnight. It vanished the way most great things do, slowly, then all at once, while the people living through it told themselves everything would be fine. By the time they understood what was happening, it was already too late to stop it. The pyramids are still there. You can climb them, you can stand on top and look out over an endless green jungle and try to imagine the city that once filled it with life. And in that silence, the Maya are still asking us a question across 1,000 years. If it happened to them, with all their brilliance, their science, and their power, what makes us so sure it can't happen to us? The jungle keeps its secrets, but it also leaves a warning for anyone willing to listen. That is the true story of the empire that vanished.